That sounding highly educated in English actually has absolutely nothing to do with having perfect, flawless grammar.
Right, which is wild to think about.
It is. And it really doesn't have anything to do with speaking at a lightning fast pace either.
Yeah, it's completely counterintuitive. I mean, we spend years, decades, even agonizing over prepositions or whether we use the past perfect continuous tense correctly. But the reality of human communication is just much more subtle.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because research actually shows that commanding a room like, making people stop what they are doing and realize, wow, this person is precise, they are intelligent, and I need to listen to them, it actually comes down to swapping out just a handful of everyday words.
Exactly.
So, welcome to the deep dive. If you're an intermediate English learner looking to level up your professional or academic presence, well, this is exactly where you want to be.
The strategy we are exploring today is entirely about vocabulary precision. And just to be clear, we are not going to ask you to memorize some dusty dictionary of obscure, complicated terms.
Right, nobody has time for that.
No, not at all. These are words you almost certainly already know. You've read them, you've heard them, but maybe you just haven't taken that leap to actively deploy them in your everyday speech. Learning to swap a basic word for a precise one takes, maybe 10 seconds. But the impact that precision has on your listeners lasts a lifetime.
Exactly. Because when you use vague words, you are basically handing your listener a blurry map. You're forcing their brain to do extra work to figure out what you actually mean. So let's start by clearing up how we describe our internal state. The emotional palette.
That's a great place to start.
Think about a word like happy. It's a great feeling, obviously, but as a descriptive tool, it's virtually useless. Happy covers everything from, finding a great parking spot to getting married.
Right, and it creates a massive cognitive load for the listener because it communicates almost nothing specific about the actual texture of your emotion. If we want to build empathy faster, we need precision.
So what are the upgrades for happy?
Well, let's look at 3. First, we have elated. You use this when you are intensely happy, usually stemming from a very specific achievement. It has real altitude to it. For example, she was elated when she found out she got the promotion.
Oh, I like that. It's a peak experience. You can't just be elated about a decent cup of coffee.
Exactly, no. Now, what if the emotion is pointing forward in time? Then you use thrilled. This is excited and delighted, but with this vibrating energy of anticipation about the future. Like, I'm absolutely thrilled about the new project.
Right, you're looking ahead.
Exactly. And on the completely opposite end of that energy spectrum, we have content. This is quietly, peacefully satisfied. You aren't jumping up and down. You were just at peace with the world. I'm content with how things turned out.
I love that distinction. Now, the flip side of that is the word sad. If you tell a native speaker you feel sad, honestly, it just falls flat. It's the emotional equivalent of beige wallpaper.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It is technically accurate, but it completely lacks depth.
It really does. Reaching for a more precise word makes people actually feel the specific weight of what you're describing. So the first upgrade here is melancholy. This isn't a sharp pain. It's a gentle, reflective, almost wistful sadness. So you'd say, there's something melancholy about old photographs.
Wow, yeah. It's almost a beautiful sadness. You aren't crying, you're just deep in thought.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with despondent. This is deeply discouraged. It's the feeling of having lost all hope after a prolonged struggle. For instance, he was despondent after the 3rd rejection.
That one sounds heavy.
It is. And the 3rd upgrade is crestfallen. This describes the very specific sensation of suddenly being disappointed. It's the feeling of your high expectations being instantly dashed, like she looked crestfallen when she heard the news.
You can almost see the physical posture in the word crestfallen, Shoulders slumping, looking at the floor.
Definitely.
All right, moving on to angry. Anger has so many different flavors. It can be hot, cold, righteous, petty. But the basic word angry captures absolutely none of that nuance.
Let's add some heat to it. First is furious. This is intensely, actively angry. It is rage with actual temperature behind it. So he was furious about the last-minute cancellation.
Okay, furious is hot.
Right. Second is indignant. This is a highly specific flavor. It's being angry specifically because you perceive something as unjust or unfair. She was indignant that they'd changed the policy without telling anyone.
That one has a real sense of righteous defense to it. You aren't just mad, you actually feel wronged.
Precisely. And the third is exasperated. This captures the specific draining frustration of dealing with something repeatedly stupid, stubborn, or unhelpful. Like, I'm completely exasperated with this process.
It occurs to me that relying on basic words like sad or happy or angry, it's like trying to paint a masterpiece using only primary colors straight from the tube.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like, yes, it technically works, but these upgrades, they add 3D texture and shading to the canvas.
That is a perfect way to look at it. And, from a language learning perspective, it's worth noting that words like indignant and exasperated rarely make it into the introductory chapters of standard textbooks. So when you drop one of those into a casual sentence, it instantly signals a genuine, lived-in fluency to whoever's listening.
It shows you really know the language. So, emotional precision is great for building relationships, but what happens when you step out of your personal life and into the office?
That's where it really counts.
Let's talk about professional presence. There is one verb that I think is the most overused crutch in intermediate English, and that's the word show. Like, the report shows, the graph shows, this shows.
Oh, it's everywhere. And the problem is, show doesn't carry any professional weight. The upgrades here add immediate credibility. First is demonstrate. This doesn't just show, it proves how something works, usually backed by evidence. The data demonstrates a clear pattern.
It's almost like bringing a witness to the stand in a courtroom.
Exactly. Second is reveal. This means showing something that was previously hidden, obscured, or unexpected. Like, the investigation revealed significant problems with the process.
So it's pulling back the curtain on a secret?
Yes. And the third is illustrate. This is showing by example in order to make a complex idea clearer. This case perfectly illustrates the problem.
Makes sense.
Think about the persuasive force here. If you say, the data shows, I might believe you. If you say, the data demonstrates, you are implying actual rigorous proof. That one word changes how seriously I take your claim.
Okay, I have to push back on this next one, though. The word is big. A big project, a big opportunity. Is the word big really that detrimental to your professional image?
Well, it's not mathematically incorrect, but we have to look at the psychology of language.
Hmm?
Big is one of the very first adjectives human beings learn as toddlers.
Oh, fair point.
Right. So when you use it in a high-stakes professional environment, it unconsciously signals a limited elementary vocabulary. If you want to elevate how you are perceived, try substantial. This implies solid physical weight or deep importance. There's been a substantial improvement in performance.
Substantial. Yeah, it sounds like something you could actually hold in your hands. It has gravity.
It really does. Next is considerable. This means large enough to be worth noting. It demands thoughtful acknowledgement from the room. The project required considerable resources.
Nice.
And third is significant. This points directly to something that is important and fundamentally worthy of attention. This is a significant development for the team. Substituting any of these for big immediately elevates the maturity of your emails and presentations.
Which naturally leads us to the word important. We say everything is important, and when everything is important, nothing is.
Right, it loses all its impact. Let's make it vivid. First, crucial. This means absolutely essential for structural integrity. If you skip this, things will fall apart. This is a crucial step. Skipping it will cause problems downstream.
Wow, okay.
Next is imperative. This is urgently necessary. It feels like a command dictated by the circumstances themselves. It's imperative that we respond before the deadline.
Imperative has a ticking clock behind it. It creates action.
It absolutely demands action. And finally, pivotal. This is the specific importance of a fulcrum, something that causes a massive change of direction. This was a pivotal moment in the company's history.
I love that word.
Yeah, when you call something pivotal, you are telling your audience that everything before this moment and everything after it are completely different.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Our source text provides a fantastic real-world story to see these first 6 swaps in action. It's about a guy named James.
Right, James.
Now, James was a classic intermediate learner. His English was totally functional, like he could order food, he could hold a meeting, but he always felt like his personality was getting flattened. He sounded a bit robotic.
So James decides to start making these intentional, conscious swaps. And the text recounts a conversation he had with a friend right after a really grueling job interview. His friend naturally asks, hey, how did it go?
Now, the old James would have said, I was really sad at the start, but then I was happy. Instead, he told his friend that initially, after the very first question, he thought he completely bombed it. He said he was crestfallen, but in the end, he was elated. He was genuinely elated.
Right, and he recounted a moment in the interview where they asked him about a massive project failure from his past. It would be so easy to get defensive, to get indignant, because the failures weren't entirely his fault.
But he kept his cool.
He did.
Yeah.
He explained to the interviewers how the data demonstrates exactly what went wrong. He framed the failure not as a disaster, but as a pivotal moment in his career development.
And what's amazing is the friend's reaction. The friend wasn't taking notes on James's grammar. He just looked at him and said, "Your English sounds different lately." Because James wasn't just parading around a bunch of dictionary terms. He was deploying a new level of precision that made his thoughts sound sharper.
If you want to sound like James, you have to upgrade your verbs of action and strategy, because business is ultimately about getting things done. And that brings us to the ultimate generic verb, get.
I hate the word get. It means absolutely everything. I get coffee, I get tired, I get a promotion, I get the joke. Because it applies to everything, it essentially means nothing.
Let's give it some teeth. First, obtain. This implies getting something through deliberate effort or a formal process. You'll need to obtain approval before proceeding.
Okay, that sounds professional.
Second is acquire. This is gaining possession, often incrementally over time or through strategic sustained effort. The company acquired 3 new clients this quarter.
Acquired sounds so much more intentional. You didn't just stumble upon those clients, you hunted them.
Yes, it implies strategy. And the third is secure. This is getting something reliably, putting it under lock and key with a sense of final confirmation. We've secured funding for the next phase.
Oh, nice.
And this raises a really critical psychological point. If you walk into a meeting and say, "We got the funding," it sounds a bit like you bought a winning lottery ticket. It implies luck. But if you say, "We secured the funding," it implies competence. You made it a certainty.
I love that distinction. Now, what about the phrase "I think"? Like, I think we should do this. To me, it feels incredibly hedged. It's like you are intentionally leaving a back door open just in case you turn out to be wrong.
It is arguably the most hedged phrase in the English language. If you want to signal genuine conviction, try these. Believe. This isn't just a passing thought. It's a considered opinion held with real conviction. I believe this approach will deliver better results.
That definitely sounds stronger.
Next is suspect. This is a thought born from indirect evidence or gut intuition. I suspect the problem started much earlier than we realized.
Suspect makes you sound like a detective. You're piecing clues together. But wait, what if I'm listening to this and thinking, okay, if I use the next word, contend like, I contend that. Am I going to sound incredibly arrogant? Do I sound like a lawyer looking for a fight in a casual Tuesday status meeting?
Well, it's a fair anxiety. Contend does mean to assert a position, especially in a debate. I would contend that the current strategy is fundamentally flawed. But it doesn't make you sound arrogant. It makes you sound prepared.
Oh, I see.
When you say, "I contend," you are signaling to the room that what follows is not a random thought you just had. It is a deeply considered position that you have the data to firmly defend. It commands respect.
That makes total sense. You're owning the statement. Okay, another generic action word is use. Like, let's use this soft.
Let's give it specific connotations. Utilize. This means to use something for a very specific practical purpose, especially repurposing something that wasn't originally designed for that job. We can utilize the existing infrastructure instead of building from scratch. Next is employ. This goes beyond physical tools. It's using a method or strategy deliberately. The team employed a new approach to solve the problem.
And the last one is undeniably a corporate buzzword, but I think it's a buzzword for a very good reason.
Yes, leverage. This means using something as an advantage to extract exponentially more value than you could otherwise. We leveraged our existing relationships to accelerate the partnership.
It's everywhere.
It is, but in professional English, leverage implies high-level strategic thinking. You didn't just use a tool. You saw hidden potential value and you extracted it.
All right, so your strategy is set, you're leveraging your assets, but eventually you have to execute. And execution inevitably means altering systems and hitting roadblocks. Let's look at the word change.
The problem with change is that it only describes what happened, not how or to what degree. First, we have transform. This is fundamental, radical change at the cellular level. The before and after are completely unrecognizable. The new leadership completely transformed the culture.
Like alchemy, turning lead into gold.
Exactly. Second is overhaul. This brings up very physical imagery. It is a comprehensive dismantling of a system, an intensive repair and rebuild from the ground up. The entire onboarding process needs an overhaul.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It does. And third is refine. This is careful, delicate, incremental improvement. You're taking something that is already good and polishing it until it's perfect. We need to refine the proposal before presenting it. Word precision here isn't just about sounding smart, it's about giving your team precise instructions on how much work needs to be done.
Which brings us to the moment things go wrong. The instinct is to walk into the room and announce we have a problem, and instantly everybody's blood pressure spikes.
Because the word problem is a panic button. Different types of issues deserve different words to manage the room's anxiety. First, obstacle. This is a physical thing blocking the path, but the implication is that it can be navigated around or climbed over. There are a few obstacles to consider before we move forward.
That sounds totally manageable.
Right. Second is complication. This is an unexpected knot that just makes things a bit more convoluted. A last-minute complication delayed the launch.
And the third one is absolute my favorite because I feel like it instantly positions you alongside senior executives and legal teams.
Impediment. This is formal, it carries the heavy weight of its Latin roots, and it implies something that is actively and completely preventing progress. The lack of clear communication was a significant impediment to the project.
Wow.
It frames the issue not as a frantic emergency, but as a structural issue that needs a calculated executive decision to remove.
It sounds so much more official and solvable than we have a huge problem.
Okay, let's look at the life cycle of these projects. The beginning, the middle, and the end. We all default to the word start.
Start gets the motor running, sure, but it lacks scale. Upgrades suggest scale and intention. Initiate is formal and process-driven. We'll initiate the review process next Monday.
Very clean.
Then there's launch. This carries incredible momentum, kinetic energy, and public visibility. The company is launching a new product line in Q3. And the third one here has the most vivid imagery to me embark on. Whenever I hear someone say they are embarking on something, I immediately picture a giant, majestic wooden ship slowly leaving a misty harbor for a grand, multi-year voyage.
That is precisely the psychological feeling it's meant to evoke. It means to begin a journey of immense significance. We're embarking on one of the most ambitious projects in the company's history. It elevates the importance of everyone involved in whatever comes next.
But of course, once you embark, the waters usually get choppy, things get hard, and hard is just such a flat, uninspiring word.
Let's make the difficulty specific. First, arduous. This describes something that requires immense, sustained effort over a very long period. It's the difficulty of a steep, endless uphill climb. It was an arduous process, but the results were worth it.
Steep claim, yeah.
Next is formidable. This means impressive in its difficulty. It is intimidating before you even make your first move. The competition was formidable, but we were prepared.
You know, calling an opponent or a challenge formidable, it has to be one of the highest compliments you can give.
It absolutely is. It
Okay.
conveys deep respect for what you are up against. And the third upgrade is grueling. This is punishing. It is exhausting in its physical or emotional demands. It's purely about surviving the endurance test. It was a grueling week, 3 cities in 4 days.
So you survived the grueling week. How do we bring things to a close? The default is just to say it ended.
But end just describes the sudden stopping of motion. The upgrades tell us the nature of the ending. Conclude means to end properly, logically, and completely, tying everything up with a resolution. The meeting concluded with a clear action plan.
That's a good ending.
Next is terminate. This is clinical. It is ending something formally, officially, and often abruptly. The contract was terminated following the breach.
It's very sharp, like a guillotine.
Yes. And finally, dissolve. This means to end something that was previously unified, like a partnership, a marriage, or an organization. The committee was dissolved after the review.
There is something incredibly poetic to me about the word dissolve. It feels like dropping a cube of sugar into a glass of hot water. It didn't break, it didn't explode, it just came apart gracefully and ceased to exist in its previous form.
Exactly. The word itself carries the emotional context of how the ending happened.
So what does this all mean when we put it together? We arrive at our final swap. This is the art of the persuasive pitch, and we have to talk about the word interesting. I'll just say interesting is the politest nothing word in the entire English language. If I show you a painting and you say, interesting, I know you actually hate it.
It's the ultimate non-committal filler word. It can mean absolutely everything and nothing at the exact same time. If you want to be genuinely persuasive, use these upgrades. Compelling. This describes something so interesting that it has gravitational pull. It demands your attention and pulls you toward it. That's a compelling argument. I hadn't considered that angle.
The word itself does the persuasive heavy lifting for you.
It really does. Next is intriguing. This is interesting in a highly mysterious, complex, or puzzling way. Something intriguing about the way he approached the problem.
Right.
And lastly, thought-provoking. This describes something that forces you to stop your mental autopilot and completely reconsider your previous stance. That was a thought-provoking presentation. It changed how I see the issue.
Let's bring all 15 of these concepts together into one cohesive picture. Our source text gives us the story of Sarah. Sarah was preparing what might have been the most important pitch of her life for her company's board of directors.
Right, and Sarah had brilliant facts. The logic of her business plan was flawless. But when she read the pitch out loud, it felt totally flat. She sounded like a junior employee, not an executive. So she took a red pen, went through her script word by word, and made the swaps.
She systematically upgraded her language to change the psychology of the room. Instead of standing up and calling it a big opportunity, she framed it as a substantial opportunity. Instead of telling them this was an important step, it became a crucial step.
Wherever she wrote that, the data shows that. She crossed it out and said the data demonstrates that. Instead of weakly saying we think, she confidently wrote we contend.
She didn't want to just get funding, she wanted to secure funding. And she didn't start the process, she planned to initiate the process.
She acknowledged that the upcoming year wouldn't just be hard, she warned them it would be arduous. But she assured them that a specific supply chain problem was merely an impediment that could be managed.
She promised them not just an interesting approach, but a compelling approach. And most importantly, speaking of change, she made it clear she didn't just want to change the system, she was there to completely transform the system.
The result was profound. You have to remember, it was the exact same pitch with the exact same numerical facts. But because of those vocabulary swaps, she sounded like a completely different person. She commanded the room entirely through the precision of her words.
When she walked into that boardroom, she was elated to finally share her vision, and of course a little apprehensive, because why just say nervous when you can say apprehensive, right? And she delivered. The board unanimously approved the pitch. And the best part, one of the senior board members pulled her aside afterward and specifically called her presentation compelling and well-articulated.
She gave them the exact vocabulary they needed to respect her.
And this brings us to the challenge for you, the listener. You don't have to memorize 100 words today. Print this list out or just mentally file it away. Challenge yourself to actively practice just 3 of these swaps a day. If you're writing an email, pause, hit backspace on the word big, and type substantial. In just 5 days, you will have integrated all 15 of these precise, powerful, commanding words into your active, everyday vocabulary.
That is the beauty of this strategy. It is highly actionable. But this raises a deeper, more philosophical question, something I really want you to mull over after we sign off today. We spent this whole time talking about how choosing a precise word changes how other people hear you and judge your intelligence. But does forcing yourself to pause, search your brain, and find the exact, hyper-specific word actually make your own internal thinking sharper? If you finally build the vocabulary to distinguish between a simple obstacle and a systemic impediment, does your brain actually become better at solving the problem?
Oh, wow. Does the tool change the builder? That is a brilliant, thought-provoking idea to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Next time, we are pivoting slightly. We are going to explore English idioms that native speakers throw around every single day in the office, the ones that make absolutely zero literal sense if you translate them, but are completely essential to sounding natural. Until then, keep refining your vocabulary, one precise word at a time.